tonight. We are going live here on YouTube with an interesting topic today that seems to be of some concern because I was searching around for this topic and it seems like there is nothing very elaborate about it, and that is counting, how to count, okay? Now, this is a very important thing for drummers and for all musicians, but apparently it's not very well investigated unless you're taking lessons with somebody. I haven't seen a real specific or precise thing online here on YouTube or anywhere else. So we're going to get into it and give you a way to deal with all kinds of things that are very important. So counting. All right. Let's just look here on the board. I've written out a few things. The first thing you want to check out is the different ways that you can count, okay? So you have 1-part counting, 2-part counting, 3-part counting, 4-part counting, and 6-part counting. There's no 5-part counting, okay? So every one of these ways I'm going to explain and tell you what it's used for. Okay, 1-part counting. No matter what meter you're in, you're just going to count the pulses, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's in 4/4 time, right? You're counting the pulses. So that's 1-part counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting quarter notes, basically, okay? In 4/4. All right. If you want to use 1-part counting and cut time, it would just be 1, 2, 1, 2. If it's in 5/4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it's in 7/8, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? So no matter what the time signature is, 1-part counting is counting the pulses. Okay? Now, 2-part counting, you're going to add the vocalization and, okay, between the pulses. 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and. I'm sure we're all familiar with this, okay? It's just a way that you can count a little bit smaller subdivisions, eighth notes, okay? For now, let's think of it that way. 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and, okay? But you're actually, counting eighth notes. 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and. If anybody is out there watching, maybe you can tell me how the sound is. I've got my lapel mic on, so it should be okay. Now, 3-part counting. 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta. What do you use this for? For triplets. Okay? Now, 1 ta ta. Some people say 1 triplet, 2 triplet. I find that totally cumbersome. I don't know why you have to go to all the trouble to say triplet. This is 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta. It's much more efficient. It's more of like the conical way of using vocalizations, okay? Why do we do this? Because the counting gets more complex as we go on, all right? So, 4-part counting. We all know it. 1 e and a, 2 e and a, 3 e and a, 4 e and a. I don't know if you guys can see these numbers here on the board, but I hope you can. But that is 4-part counting. 1 e and a. Okay, 4 vocalizations, counting the pulse and vocalizations in between each pulse. All right. And then the next one is 6-part counting. Now, 6-part counting is partly 2-part counting and partly 3-part counting. All right, so 1 ta ta and ta ta, 2 ta ta and ta ta. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vocalizations in each pulse. Okay, that's why 6-part counting. 1-part counting is just 1 vocalization. Three-part counting is 3 vocalizations with each pulse, okay? So that's why they're called 3-part or 6-part or whatever. Okay, so now, 1-part counting, you can actually count any subdivision using 1-part counting. The thing is, you have to know what it sounds like. And if you want to be precise, you can use these other vocalizations to help you get used to, creating more precision with your counting. Sorry. 2-part counting, right? 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, you can also use this for this, okay? 16th note triplets. This is how you would count 16th note triplets. 1 ta ta and ta ta, 2 ta ta and ta ta, 1 ta ta and ta ta. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, okay? 6 vocalizations, 16th note triplets. Now, you could also do it with 2-part counting because you have the and in exactly the same space, okay? So you could say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? Some little tricks to save you time and effort. I'm going to show you exactly why in a little bit, okay? Now, if you want to count bigger triplets, like this is 16th note triplets, this is quarter note, 8th note triplets. If you want to count quarter note triplets, okay, you have to use this 3-part counting, okay? Quarter note triplets are going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 ta ta 3, 1 ta ta 2 ta ta 3 ta ta 4 ta ta 1, okay? 1 ta ta 2 ta ta. All right, the first set of triplets is going to fall on the 1, the second ta of 1, and the first ta of 2. 1 ta ta 2 ta ta. Okay, it's not this 1 you ta 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 ta. That's not a triplet. Okay, funny, but when I was a kid, I didn't know this either, and I had to learn it. Actually, Joe Percaro was the one who taught me this, and then another really great reading teacher, Gary Hess, back in the PIT days. They're the ones that showed me all this. So, 1 ta ta 2 ta ta, 1 ta ta 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta 4 ta ta. Okay. 8th note triplets, you use this. Quarter note triplets, you use this. All right. Now, half note triplets. Okay, half note triplets. 1, 2, 3 ta ta 4 ta ta, 1 ta ta 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta 4 ta ta, 1 ta ta 2 ta ta, ta ta 4 ta ta 1. It's not this 1 ta ta 2 ta ta 3 ta ta 4 ta ta 1. No, okay. When there's bigger spaces, unless you really know what it sounds like, you have to use a real precise way of counting, okay? So 3-part counting is great with that. Half note triplets, quarter note triplets, 8th note triplets, 3-part counting. 16th note triplets, if you want to be real precise, 6-part counting, okay? Now, 4-part counting is used for anything involving 16th notes, all right? 16th note subdivision. Obviously 16th notes, but also cycles, okay? You can use 4-bar counting to count the 3-bar cycle, 5, 7, 9, 11, whatever. If you have phrases of those types, cycles, in 4/4 time, or 5/4, or 7/4, or whatever, that's when you use 4-part counting, okay? We're all familiar with 4-part counting. It's one of the probably more popular ones for some reason. But this is how you should be counting, okay? So once again, 1-part counting, counting just the pulses. 2-part counting, adding the vocalization and in between the pulses. 3-part counting, adding the vocalization ta, ta in between the pulses. 4-part counting, adding the vocalization e and da. Okay? Some people say 1 e and da, 1 e and da. But I find that to be cumbersome as well. If you say and, the D just hangs over and you can say duh. Instead of stopping the D, right? 1 e and da, 1 e and da. 1 e and 2 e and That's cumbersome to me. 1 e and the 2 e and the 3 e and the 4 e and is more efficient. Okay? 6-part counting, 16th note triplets. All right? Now, here's how you do a little bit of an exercise with these things, okay? You want to use 1-part counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Real obvious, right? I'm checking here to see if there's anyone in the chat. By the way, I'm wearing 2 sweaters because it's cold down here in South America. I'm in a town where it's kind of up in the mountains, and no matter how much heat you turn on, man, the pad gets cold. So it's kind of like New York. We're walking around with a bunch of sweaters on. So that's 1-part counting, okay? 2-part counting. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and, okay? 3-part counting. 1, 2, 3 ta ta 4 ta ta 1 ta ta 2 ta ta 3 ta ta 4 ta ta 1 ta ta 2 ta ta 3 ta ta 4 ta ta 1. Okay? 4-part counting. 1, 2, 3 e and a 4 e and a 1 e and a 2 e and a 3 e and a 4 e and a 1 e and a 2 e and a 3 e and a 4 e and a 1. 6-part counting. Remember, there's no 5-part counting, okay? 6-part counting. 1 ta ta and ta ta, 2 ta ta and ta ta. It might take a little getting used to doing that and saying the and in between the tatas, but I'm speaking half in Spanish, half in English. Anyway, here's 6-part counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and, sorry. 1, and, 2, and, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 to the and to the 2 to the and to the 3 to the and to the 4 to the and to the 1 to the and to the 2 to the and to the 3 to the and to the 4 to the and to the 1 to the and to the 2 to the and to the 3 to the and to the 4 to the and to the 1. Okay? 6-part counting. Now, what's interesting is if you want to go from subdivision to subdivision, okay? Let's say you want to go from 2-part counting to 6-part counting, okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 to the and to the 2 to the and 3 and 4 and 1 to the and to the 2 to the and to the 3 to the and to the 4 to the and to the 1. Okay? You see how those two line up with the vocalization and? That's very important. You can't use 4-part counting to count 16th note triplets. Okay? You can't use 4-part counting to count the half note triplet or the quarter note triplet or the 8th note triplet for that matter. Okay? It's just way too complicated. All right? So once you get these vocalizations in your head, it's much easier to work through your counting. Especially the half note triplet seems to give a lot of people trouble. So remember, half note triplet is 3-part counting, okay? 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta, 4 ta ta, 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta, 4 ta ta, 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta, 4 ta ta, 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta, 4 ta ta, 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta, 4 ta ta. Okay? On beat 1, 1 ta ta, 2 ta. The first ta of 2, okay? The first ta of 2, 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta. And then the second ta of 3. 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta, 4 ta ta, 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta, 4 ta ta, 1. That's real precise and clean way to count half note triplets, okay? Hey, Jared, what's happening, brother? I'm glad to see somebody in the chat here. Jared is a member of the Phil Maturano lesson site. He's doing very well. Actually, I'm proud of him. He's putting in the work. That's a great, great thing to put in the work. It takes a lot of time to be a drummer, man. You have to have a lot of dedication and patience and passion. And Jared, you're doing great, man. I'm proud of you. If there's anything you want to ask about this, just let me know. Okay? Now, if you want to go from 16th note to 16th note triplets, again, you have the and vocalization, which is anchoring you down, okay, to make the proper subdivisions, okay? 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 and 2 and 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 1 and a 2 E and a 1. Okay? That's a very good way to make that transition. Just keep in mind that you have that anchor point, which is the and vocalization. Okay? So we're going to go from 2-part counting to 4-part counting, and then to 6-part counting, okay? 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1 E, and a 2 E, and a 3 E, and a 4 E, and a 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and, okay? That is really nice because it gives you a center, okay, to aim for, which is the ands. Also, of course, you're aiming for the pulses, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. But sometimes it's not enough to just count the pulses. You need something in the middle, all right? Now, ideally, you want to be counting just the pulses the whole time, right? But that's hard. You really need to know where everything lies, okay? So if you're going to do 1-part counting, for example, with half-note triplets, okay? This is what it's going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay? 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta, 4 ta ta, 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta, 4 ta ta. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 ta ta, 2 ta ta, 3 ta ta, 4 ta ta. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay? If you want to go from 1-part counting to 3-part counting, okay? That's also cool, but like I said, man, one of the best things to do is take all these ways of counting, figure out what works best for each subdivision, right? Know the relationship between the vocalizations real well, and you'll be able to count anything you want, okay, with precision. There's so many things that are confusing people, I think, that it was important to make this video. It might seem very basic to some, but I think it was becoming necessary, okay? If you want to play, for example, 30-second notes, okay? You're just going to play 2 notes for each vocalization in 4-part counting, okay? 1 E and the, 2 E and the, 3 E and the, 4 E and the, 1 E and the, 2 E and the, 3 E and the, 4 E and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and the 2 E and the 3 E and the 4 E and the 1 E and the 2 and the 3 E and the 4 E and the 1. Okay? I hope you guys can hear me okay, and this doesn't sound like absolute trash going through the lapel mic. Anyway, that's why I put the practice pad here. So, with that in mind, I'm hoping that you guys have questions, and it looks like, oh, okay, Jared, you can hear well, that's great. The pad sounds okay through the lapel mic, let me know. I'm hoping that you'll have anyone out there questions for me. Okay, great. The pad sounds great with a lapel mic. That's really good to know. Okay, so yeah, if you have any questions. Oh, so sounds cool, like a practice pad should sound like. Yeah, you know, a lot of times I like to use it on the snare because it gives me a little bit of that snare sound. You know, I actually designed a practice pad with a company in China, and it was so cool. It had different surfaces and ways to practice, you know, all the things that we do on the site. But the company in China like didn't get it because they weren't like pros. They were just manufacturers. So they did this testing of the pad, and it like they tested it on kids, you know, like amateurs, and the amateurs guys were like, oh, I don't know, man, I don't get it, you know. So it was such a pity because for pros, especially traveling pros, it was lightweight and it was a fantastic product, but it didn't get manufactured because those guys didn't test it out on the wrong people. That's what happens when there's not real players involved in the manufacturing of a product anyway. I hope to get it done someday. Let's see. If you want to play groups of 5, for example, okay, and just use 1-part counting. Now I'm just taking it out here so you can get an idea of what I do, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, that was 5 bars of a 5-bar cycle using 16th notes. Okay, just groupings of 5, basically what that is. Pro Logic makes good pads. I've never tried those. You know, actually, this pad that I have right here was made for me in India. Believe it or not, I have an endorsement with this company, but it's since folded, you know. And I love the pad, it's cool, but it's a bit heavy. And when you're traveling a lot, man, this is like, it makes too much weight for the product. So if you're sitting at home all the time or don't use it on airplane gigs or whatever, you know, when you have to fly, then it's great. But otherwise, I like a much lighter pad. Okay, so if you want to do groups of 7, okay, using 1-part counting, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and so on, like that. It's very good to have this vocalization going when you're doing phrases that go over the bar line. Okay, now, of course, it takes a minute to get used to this, and I suggest going through all those exercises back there to get used to counting and playing stuff, okay? Let's see, John, oh, this is actually John McKenna that's writing this. Hey, John, what's happening, buddy? The pad is an old friend of yours. Yeah, that's a man. This pad has been with me for so many years. Oh my God, it's nuts. So I'm a fan of this pad. It's just hard to take on a plane. And actually, I have two of these. One is smaller, but I left that one in the States because I didn't want to travel with two pads all the time. And since the pandemic came, I haven't been able to get back to the States. So boy, but oddly enough, it looks like I'll be back in Los Angeles finally next month. So these videos are all going to be done from LA next time around. Eventually, I hope to get back to New York, my home, but my mom lives in LA, and the first stop is LA. So that's what's going on with that. Yeah. Okay. So if you guys have any questions about counting, that would be great. I think the guys here in the chat are already hip to all this, but it's important for guys that are less experienced, perhaps, to realize what's going on with the counting. Now, if you're going to count the 3-bar cycle, for example, I mean, we all know, the watchers of this channel know what that is, okay? I'm just going to play it here for you for a moment, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay? I used 1-part counting there, okay? It's very efficient 1-part counting, but like I said, you have to hear the phrase first, okay? If you use 4-part counting with something like this, it can become cumbersome. 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E and the 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E and the 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E and the 1. Okay? Maybe at first you can do it with 4-part counting. Okay? All these ways of counting are great for precision with placement of subdivisions and phrasing. Okay? Conical is kind of a different thing. Conical is great for counting, but conical is language of traditional instruments in India. Okay, it's actual language. While this is not language. Okay, it's just counting subdivisions. You can count phrases with these two, but it's not the language. Conical is the actual language of the drums, right, in India. So it's a bit different, the whole concept. Now, let's say you're in 5, okay? 5/4. Does anything change? Nothing changes. Now, of course, if you want to count half-note triplets, it gets tricky. It starts to go over the bar line and stuff, so that's a whole other story. But you can, of course, use 1-part counting. You just have to understand what it sounds like. In 7, it's the same thing, okay? If you want to count the 3-bar cycle in 5, for example, this is getting real heavy into the counting situation, but if you want to count the 3-bar cycle in 5, it's great to be able to do it just with the pulses, all right? But it gets trickier and trickier depending on what you're doing, right? A lot of people can count basic subdivisions. Even half-note triplets is pretty easy to count once you have it in your head, not understand what the phrase is. But when you get into counting odd meters and phrases on top of the odd meters, that's when things get very, very interesting, okay? So we're just going to count in 5. We're going to count the 3-bar cycle, okay? Still 3 bars, all right? And we're going to use 1-part counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Okay, So you see it takes 3 bars for it to cycle out. I'm using 1 part counting. It's the easiest to deal with, okay? If you're doing 2 part counting, it starts to get messy. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's really hard. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 1. Okay? You can do it, but there's more complications that way. John says, 1 part counting is better when playing over the bar line phrases. You can sing the phrase as you play it. Yes, definitely. Jared says, if I can't count while I'm playing something, I can't really play it yet. Yeah, that's kind of true, you know. If you can count it and play it, it means you really have it down. And one of the worst things is to try to guess at a phrase. You're just wasting time if you don't try to decipher it, you know, precisely. And I see a lot of guys like guessing what it's going to sound like. That is such a pity that you just don't slow down, take the time to use whatever part counting you need to use, and count the phrase precisely so you know what it sounds like. And when you go to play it, you're not guessing. And the worst thing to do while you're playing is try to guess at something you're worked on, or you're trying to work on. You know, never do that. You're just going to look like a crazy guy. Okay. All right. Let me see. How about in 9/4? What happens if you play the 3-bar cycle in 9 and you want to use 1 part counting? All right. Remember, the 3-bar cycle in anything that's divisible by 3 is no longer the 3-bar cycle. It's a 1-bar cycle. Okay. This gets, you know, really mathy and wordy if you start delving into rhythm like this. But the whole point is that if you really want to get your counting together, you have to do these mental kind of exercises so that when you go back to count 16th note triplets or whatever, it's like nothing, right? John says, guessing while reading a chart is a no-no. Yeah, for sure. John Hoey. Hey, man, what's happening, brother? How are you? Thank you for writing. I think John is like a first time he's writing here. And John says, can you comment on the basic songa that Maynard preferred in his Latin tunes and demonstrate? Well, you know, what's funny is, well, unfortunately, I can't demonstrate at the moment because I'm going through this lapel mic. I'm just doing this live thing just to talk and give examples on the pad. But I can tell you this. Now, whenever you're playing with guys that are not really Latin, you have to be able to like flow a little bit more into a vocabulary that's simpler to feel, okay? The Latin feel, the songo, Brazilian, whatever, it's very particular. And you kind of have to play with who you are playing with, okay? Not try to insert, you know, the real traditional sometimes. It could throw people off if they're not used to it. I remember I was playing with an older guy, a real old saxophonist, and we were doing a samba tune, right? And of course, I'm playing samba like they played in Brazil. And he turns around to the trumpet player and he goes, I don't like this drummer. Can you believe that, man? I mean, right in front of me, those old guys from New York, you know, they don't care at all. They just say stuff, right? So I was like, okay, dude, whatever. I mean, that's samba. He couldn't feel it, you know. So I played it again the hokey way, the wrong way. And he was like, oh, yeah, cool. He was all happy because he was used to the jazz samba, not traditional, okay, samba. So that's a whole issue that you have to be careful with, you know, who you're playing with. Can they hack it? Now, with Maynard, to be honest, whenever I played the Latin stuff, I tried to do it as hip as possible, while not losing the band, right? Because what happens is you have a big band, okay? With a big band, you got all the responsibility of keeping it together as a drummer. And some guys' like perception of grooves is different than others. Some might be stronger in samba, stronger in Afro-Cuban, or weaker in this or that. So you kind of have to aim for the middle and not worry about too much whether, you know, you're so authentic, like all the authentic guys are going to say, wow. Now, another thing is, if you're playing with a percussionist, then you could be more authentic because there's somebody else holding down the basic groove. It's a lot thicker, you know, and people can feel it more if they're not used to playing, you know, Afro-Cuban or Brazilian or whatever. So that's, you know, my advice. Every time you go to play a groove that has to do with Latin or any kind of a specialized groove, or even the reverse, you know, if you're playing with the Latin guys and you try to play swing, jazz, straight ahead, bebop, you have to be careful not to throw them off, okay? So you have to like adapt your language to each situation. Ideally, you know, if you're playing Afro-Cuban stuff or whatever, you're playing with people that are real knowledgeable in that genre, like you might be, and you can do the real stuff. Anytime, though, you're playing in a big band, unless it's maybe Arturo Sandoval or something, somebody really, you know, specialized in that area that has a great study in combining the two things. If you're in that situation, then yeah, you're cool. And if there's a percussionist, you're even more cool that way. But when there isn't, you gotta play with the people you're with. And that's one thing that Maynard kind of liked, that I kept it kind of in the vein of something that everybody can hold together. All right. So I hope that that helps, John. And yeah, those were tough lessons sometimes, because I wanted to play the real stuff, and I'd play it with some people and they just didn't get it, or they lose the one completely, especially in that songo stuff. They just lose the one, you know, which is such a bummer, because you got to go back and, you know, make it a little less hip, if you know what I mean. Anyway, back to the counting thing. Counting is such an important part of getting your rhythmic act together, because you can approach things with precision until you can hear the phrases. Once you can hear the phrases, there's almost no need to do any other type of counting. You can always do one part counting. Unless it's something really complicated, you know, if I get a chart that has a real complicated figure on there, I'm going to start counting any way I can until I feel the figure. All right? One e and that, one e and that, e and that, e and the four, right? At first, I'm going to be counting one e and the two e and the, to get to the level where I can hear the phrase, and then I'm just going to sing the phrase, okay? But without the ability to count, it's kind of like what John Jarrett says, if you can't count it, you're not really ready to play it yet. So it's a very important thing. Another thing you might want to consider is playing pulses on the hi-hat. When you're behind the kit, what I like to do is always play the pulse, you know, even though I'm playing larger subdivisions like half note triplet or whatever. I like to keep the pulse on the hi-hat just for additional safety, let's say, okay? Okay, John says, counting helps us get our foot in the door of new ideas and genre. Yes, yes. What it provides is a rhythmic grid to attach your body to, okay? If you have this rhythmic grid, once it's embedded, this grid I call it a grid because it's something you can just bounce off of and know where everything's falling. Once you create that grid, you can stop doing all this counting. But like John says, it's like a way of getting your foot in the door, especially with different genres. Now, there's some genres, believe it or not, that is going to be really, really whacked to count, especially like African stuff, because a lot of the 6/8 feels, let's say, I'm not saying everything in Africa is 6/8. I'm just saying that it's duple metered, okay? It's duple metered. So when you're counting, even if you're playing kind of 16th note grooves or ideas or phrases, the duple meter is really going to throw you off. So it's always better to count almost in bigger subdivisions. So like when you're playing in 6/8, a lot of people just tend to count 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, even though it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They don't say 1, 4, 1, 4. Okay, they don't do that. They just say 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, that's the issue with duple meters. You can count it in several different ways, and of course, even in 6/8, there's the issue of whether something is in 6, in 2, or 3 even. Sometimes some things are in 3 and it feels like 2 or it feels like 6. So that's why I always say, if you can get everything down to one part counting, create this grid in your body so that you hear every subdivision without having to go nuts like with 6-part counting, right? That is the ideal situation, in my humble opinion. Okay? Yeah. Now, another thing I like to do, of course, I think everyone should do it just to get your feel together, or just to build this rhythmic grid, is of course play 5s and 7s and 9s on top of counting with 1 bar, or maybe even, 1-part counting, or maybe even 2-part counting. But a real basic thing, maybe you want to take a step back, okay? One thing that kind of helps is if you're using 1-part counting, play all the E's and does, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay? That's a good kind of a gauge to know where you are with feeling pulses and different subdivisions, all right? Any exercise that you could do like that helps create a strong rhythmic grid. But I've got to tell you, the strongest way to create a rhythmic grid while counting is doing specialty phrases like, well, not even specialty, they're very normal in some parts of the world, but like 3-bar cycle, half-note triplet, quarter-note triplet, cycle of 5, 7, 9, 11, all those things really, really, really give you a heavy rhythmic grid, okay? So if you start like this, that's a very, very good thing. Okay, if there's not any more comments, I will call it a night here in cold South America. And remember, I'll be in LA soon, very soon. Hopefully doing some gigs. I'm trying to see what can come up. But all these things are the channel is going to continue from LA. And if you're in LA and you want to take private lessons, of course, I'm available to do that. Let's see, Joey says, thanks, Phil. My Latin instructor always made me sing the clave when working in new Latin rhythms, a similar counting idea for Latin grooves. Yeah, well, you know, in any culture, that plays these kind of grooves, they feel it in a different way. They feel the clave first. They don't really, do the counting, 1, 2, 3. They just go off the clave. Da, 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 da. It's a different way of coming up in drumming. It's totally different. So this way is also great. And in Africa, it's kind of the same thing, from what I've seen from documentaries and talking to players from that region of the world, that's what, it's a whole different thing. And this is very Western, okay? This is a very Western way to approach rhythm, right? Now, the issue with is singing clave over whatever phrase you want is that, like I said, we might not be used to that, okay? Singing the clave and then playing whatever phrase. We might not be used to that. So until you get to that point, you can use these counting systems to make your life easier. But it's ideal, like your instructor said, if you can sing stuff over the clave, that's really, really nice. Okay? All right. So let's see. Yes, if there's no other questions, I'll be closing it out here. Yeah, I would love to know who your instructor is. That's a good piece of advice, very traditional in that genre. Okay. Yeah. Okay. John McKenna says you could play the clave on the hi-hat if it's better for you. Well, that's a whole other issue of coordination. But it's a lovely, beautiful way to play. If you can play left foot clave, it's beautiful. The issue is to play left foot clave, you always also have to hear the phrases over them, right, before you can do that. And it's a whole huge can of worms, okay, which you can buy my book, the Left Foot Clave Handbook, by the way. It's a beautiful book, man. It's got great reviews from drummers all over the world. Oh, hey, it's City Drums, just surfed in. Need to watch it from the beginning. Yes. It's good to watch this one from the beginning because it's got some good basic, rhythmic elements that might help in your playing and in your ability to decipher whatever vocabulary you have in front of you. John McKenna says, will you let us know if you're playing out in LA? Hey, man, are you in LA, John? Joey Hoey says, Ray Nunzi was my instructor. He studied with Paul Patterson in Philly back in the 60s. Paul played in Latin Big Bang is. Oh, I see. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, man. If you're still in touch with your instructor, please send my regards. Okay, that's cool. John McKenna, you live in LA. Okay, yes, I'll definitely let everyone know, obviously, if there's some gig happening, I'll let everybody know. If it's a gig that's worth going to, I'm not gonna, waste your time if I'm playing with some gig money thing. But if I'm sure some cool gigs are gonna happen. I'm gonna try to get something going at the Baked Potato. We'll see. Also, Jared says, no chance of playing out in the musical desert known as Dallas. Well, Jared, I'm doing the Drummers Intensive Days in different parts of the world. And since I'm going to be in the States, I'm going to be trying to organize some of those things, in the States. If you know drummers out there, if you have the inclination to organize one, I can send you the material, all the information about it. You can see on my website what it is exactly. But I always give a percentage to the cats that organize the event. So it's a nice way to make some dough and a good thing to promote drumming wherever we are in the world. And so yeah, if that's the case, that might be interesting for you. Let me know. Jared, okay. John says, I will, and let me know if you get near Philly and we can hang. Oh man, that would be great, man. I'd love to go back to Philly. I've been there a couple of times, but only very briefly, in and out and with different groups, and I never get a chance to really hang there. So it'd be great to hang there, do some serious hang with you there. John, I remember seeing you at the Pro Drum Shop doing a teaching clip. Oh my God, man, that was so many years ago. Were you at that? I can't believe it. Holy moly. Holy cannelloni, Batman. Jeez. Man, the Pro Drum Shop. I want to get down there. I really miss that place. I got my first drum set from the Pro Drum Shop, man. So you can imagine the history with Stan and the guys. I love that place. In case you don't know, the Professional Drum Shop is a drum shop in LA where all the pros hang out at them. I mean, you can go there and you're probably going to get a beer in your hand in the first 10 minutes and hanging out, and players walk in wow, man, all these great players walk in off the street, and it's like a drumming hang. Anyway, I haven't been there in years, obviously. I hope it's still like that. But I do see that they're doing some videos online, and they're having some fun there at the shop. So I hope to be there soon. John, I came late, but I saw you play a bit. Wow, man. Jeez. That's incredible, man. It's a small world. And, if there's anything of interest in LA going on, I'll let you know. I'm going to try to get a clinic at MI, perhaps at Llama 2. So, you never know. I mean, those are private schools, and it's not, I think you can't get into those events if you're just walking in off the street. But I'll definitely let you know what's going on. And anybody that wants to organize a drummers intensive day in their town, just let me know, okay? I'll send you the whole list of things, what happens and how to organize and all that stuff, and we can get it together. John, they have more drum books than any place I know. They have your books there. Yeah, I hope they still have my books there, man. I don't know what's going on with the book sales, because I think books are hardly selling at all, even through Hal Leonard. I don't think anybody's making huge book sales anymore. Even the guys at Hudson Music, I think that whole industry has been slaughtered by the online presence and YouTube and whatever else. So it's a tough, really tough call. Man, I should check the battery on the phone to see if I'm running out of battery. I hope not. We can still be hanging a little bit. Oh, we've been live for about an hour now, but I can't see the battery, how much battery is left. That's just great. I'm just going to risk it and hope I don't run out of battery. Oh my God. The setup is rough. I should have a better setup to get back here. Anyway. Man, I tell you about those books. I was so proud when those books came out. You know what's funny is that I thought I was going to be rich. Boy, did I discover. I wrote book after book and thinking that it was going to do something. It never makes you rich to write a drum book. I think drum book is more about legacy than anything else, and maybe you help some people. But as far as monetary compensation, you just forget it. And I wish I knew that before I dove into so much expense, like Latin soloing for the drum set. That book, because it was a book and video and there's players on it, that book cost me about 30 grand to produce. And never, ever gonna recoup that bread. But I mean, if you look at clinics that I've got because of the book, or anything else. It's probably like that's part of recouping strategy, I guess. John says Hudson likes to sell digital books now. Yeah, I mean that's the way they've gone. I do sell my digital projects with Hudson. There's I think there's I have 4 products on Hudson Music, and I think the digital is obviously, that's what sells. DVDs don't sell. My computer doesn't even have a DVD player, for God's sake. It's like, what? A DVD, it's so over. It's like a ghost. So that's what that's about. And well, yeah. City drums. Your writings will immortalize you. They'll live on forever in one form or another. Many will be influenced. Well, that's a tough thing, I mean, that's what my idealization is about books. But when you really start to look, man, there are so many books all over the world about drumming, and nobody even knows about them. So that whole spark of enthusiasm with writing books has died for me. That's why I have the lessons site, because I'm more in control, Plus, I don't know what's selling, what's not selling. There's so many factors, like the distributors. If they carry my book, will they put it in a place where people can see it, or are they going to hide it behind whatever? Are they going to, some kid going to look at it and then put it on another place where it's not seen? That stuff happens, man. And I walked into Guitar Center so many times when the DVD, Afro-Cuban drumming came out. I was so happy Guitar Center picked it up, but then I'd walk into different stores and it was like on a shelf where nobody would see it, or there was 5 other DVDs in front of the DVD, and I'm like, man, come on, this is, this is really sucking. This just sucks. Put the DVD where people can see it. And sometimes without the store managers looking, I would put my DVD in the front so people would see it. Anyway, that's life, man. That's life. Will it immortalize you? Maybe music has a better chance of immortalizing somebody, but a very specialized drum book, I don't know. I don't know, bro. Yeah, it's funny, right? When you hear all the backstories of things, and of course, pirating is a whole other issue. I won't even get into monetary recovery of your funds, because it's never going to happen. I'm writing a book right now with one of my students here. It's a book about the 3-bar cycle, and it's a massive, massive book, because the 3-bar cycle is just an incredible study that transcends genres and all like that. So we're putting it in different genres, and it's just a nightmare to write. I already know I'm not going to ever make a dime off the book. Perhaps off clinics as a result of the book, but even, clinics, let's face it, is dying, man, if it's not already dead. There's drum festivals and stuff like that, but you can't live off drum festivals. It's like 1 or 2, 3, 5 a year maybe, but it's not like before. Before, man, I was doing from festival to festival in different countries all over the place. It was amazing. That era, is gone, unfortunately. So yeah, the next book is going to be available on my lesson site, man, and that's all. I'm not giving it to any publisher. I'm not going to give them control, and this, after so much effort, I mean, it's taking a long time to write. After so much effort, I'm not going to give somebody 50% for what, for what? And anybody that gives a book to a publisher like that anymore, it's just insane. I mean, actually, I don't know anybody that does that. they sell it on their own website, or they distribute it themselves and stuff like that. So that's what I would recommend. Okay, so yes, that's our live broadcast for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, man. And as always, I am very, very grateful for any of you guys participating. And it's always a pleasure to to see guys interested in what I do. And yeah, I'm very grateful to everybody. I'm very grateful to everybody for the super thanks and for joining the lesson site. It gives me a great feeling knowing that it's of service to you guys, and it helps you in your drumming quest, because it is a quest. It's not a career. It's a quest, which is much deeper than a career. Yes, to do the book on cycles, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. That's all I care about. And you got it, man. Thank you to you for watching. And all the guys, John, City Drums, Jared. Who am I missing? I got everybody. Okay. Thanks for writing. Peace. Remember the counting system, okay? Peace.